Rip Van Winkle. In a village near the Catskill Mountains in New York lives a man named Rip Van Winkle, a kind neighbor and henpecked husband. He is dutiful and quick to help his friends and neighbors, and is well liked. In addition to his termagant or fierce wife, he has children, including a son, also named Rip, who bears a strong resemblance to his father. Rip Van Winkle also has a dog, Wolf, who is also put upon by Dame Van Winkle, Rip's wife. Rip's farm is a constant source of trouble for him, and the only pleasure he derives is from his regular meetings with other men of the village, who meet outside the local pub. Named after King George III of Great Britain, to discuss village gossip and other topics. One day, Rip Van Winkle goes for a walk up the Catskill Mountains, with his dog Wolf for company. As he is about to descend, he hears someone shouting his name. A strange, short man with a grey beard appears, wearing antique Dutch clothes. He beckons Rip to follow him, and they arrive at a woodland amphitheatre where strange people are playing ninepins. They are also dressed in old clothes. The man who has led Rip here has a keg of alcoholic drink, which he shares with these figures. Rip tries the drink, and takes such a shining to it that he ends up drinking too much of it, and he sinks into a deep sleep. When he wakes up, all of the strange figures have gone, including the man with the keg of liquor. Rip's dog has also gone. The gun he'd taken with him up the mountain has gone, and a rusted gun is there next to him instead. As he walks home, Rip realizes his beard has grown a foot long. When he arrives back in his village, he meets people he doesn't know, and who don't know him. All of the shops and houses look different. When he goes into his home, it's to find that it's run down and deserted. Going out into the street, he finds that the pub he used to meet with friends outside has changed from the King George III to the General Washington. Rip speaks with the villagers and asks if any of them know two of his oldest friends, whom he names. They tell him that those two friends have died. Rip asks them if anyone knows a man named Rip Van Winkle. They point to a man who looks just like Rip, his son, now grown up and resembling his father. Rip's daughter, also grown up, appears with a baby. Rip asks her who her father was. She replies that his name was Rip Van Winkle, but that he disappeared 20 years ago after he went for a walk in the mountains. They feared he'd been captured by Native Americans, or had shot himself. It turns out that Rip Van Winkle thought he'd slept for one night, but he had in fact been asleep for 20 years. Rip asks his daughter what happened to her mother. Upon learning that she has died, Rip is relieved, so henpecked was he. At this point, old Peter Vanderdonk, a descendant of a great historian, appears and corroborates Rip's story. He says that his ancestor told of Hendrik Hudson, the great explorer who helped to found North America and after whom the Hudson River was named. Keeping a vigil in the Catskill Mountains every 20 years with his crew. Rip's visit to the mountains just happened to coincide with one of these vigils. Rip settles down to watch his grandchild grow, and his son tends to the farm while Rip Sr. enjoys his retirement. He eventually reacquaints himself with his remaining friends in the village, who take up their regular meets outside the pub. And Rip Van Winkle becomes revered as a village elder and patriarch who remembers what the village was like before the American Revolutionary War.